Alrighty, early birds. What do we feel went well and what was difficult in our Mount Everest simulation?
I feel like as a group leader, I felt the need to listen to everybody's goals in the group to see what does everybody want from this expedition, so that we could plan accordingly and see how we could reach the best for the group overall. So we started out by having this discussion on what everybody's individual goals were, and I tried to listen to everybody and try to make a plan on what to do first so that we can accomplish as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that it was really important and that we did that we made sure that we covered everybody's goals. And I think that we did that really well. Made sure that everybody knew what it was going to take to get to get the most points, to get everybody's goals covered, and that helped our decision making along the way. Whenever decisions arose in the simulation, we were like, okay, well, I need to stay at this camp, for a couple nights or something like that, and that is what helped shape our decision making along the way. So I thought it was really important that we hashed out everybody's goals at the beginning, and I think that went really well.
And I think that even though we did, we were kind of flexible in changing them, because we started out trying to fulfill Alex's goals because they were the first ones to be achieved according to the plan. But then Mary's health deteriorated, and we changed the plan accordingly.
Right.
I think that was flexible and good for the group.
Yeah.
I also think that the first discussion was probably the most beneficial because we all went through each of our positions and what we had to do and our background and what was important for us and about us as a person. And so we were able to figure out what we wanted to accomplish and what we wanted to avoid, as well as anything else we needed to put in before we could make a decision of what goals really would be important to us. And I think most frustrating was during the process, we were all given different information at certain points. And sometimes we didn't utilize all the information well, and if we had, maybe we would have come up with better choices and maybe all made it to the top.
Going back to the point thing, I thought that was pretty difficult, as in hashing out which points we should try to take and which ones we shouldn't, because we could have got more points if we all made it to the top, because we would have got 20 points for that. But ultimately we didn't, and we could have had a different alternative or thought of a different plan where we could have gotten more points, as in I could have stayed at camp, 2 camps and got 2 points for that, taking those pictures, or we all could have stayed at camp 4 instead of staying at camp 2. But health issues came in the way. But that was what I found most difficult, was just hashing out what goals we should try to hit and which goals we shouldn't, and should we go for the big shebang, try to all get to the top, or should we just get these, 1 point here, 1 point there? That's what I thought was pretty
I think that, even though we didn't reach the top, we must have done something wrong or something right in terms of our decision making just to get as far as we did, because we got right to the camp right before the summit. It was the 5th camp, and so we had to have done something right, even though our health was pretty bad throughout all of it. Nobody had to get rescued until the summit. So at least leading up until that point, we had to have been doing something right with our decision making. And I think that the covering of our goals and everything in the beginning is what led up to that. So
I think that a really important critical aspect of that, those key decision-making skills were that we were able to talk to each other in a very comfortable manner. We voiced our concerns and our ideas in a very respectful and effective way. As in, Shannon was telling us that she could do this and that for us as a physician, and I was telling you guys what I was doing as a mountaineer. Basically nothing for you, but still voicing what I was in this group, as these characters were created. And that was important to make sure that the decision-making process was something that we could all be involved in. Yeah.
Going on top of that, I feel like we touched on our common goals very well. We all had a common goal, and at the end, our common goal was to get to the top as a team. And throughout the goals, we work together to make the best goal for all of us.
And like ultimately, we chose to go with my goal because that would generate the highest amount of points in total, and I could do most well for the group overall. Because we would like get $1 million from my sponsorship, and everyone would reach the summit, which is the goal of the expedition.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys: is there anything that you guys would do differently? There has to be, right?
I mean, I feel like we didn't know much about the need for oxygen to reach the summit, and if we would have like studied more on the need for oxygen to summit the mountain, we would have made a different choice in how much each person would bring.
Yeah, I feel like we did well. Like with all the decision-making aspects, the main things that I would do differently are just like things that have to do with the simulation, like getting more oxygen and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Especially that one time that we all decided to stay at the one camp, and I was like, yeah, no, I totally agree. I didn't know. I thought that the leader was the one that decided which camp we would all go to, but I went ahead of y'all. That was an issue, but in terms of like our group, circulation of ideas and circulation of plans and what we were going to go ahead with, I don't think I would have really changed anything. I think because we definitely did good enough to get close to the top. So I mean, I don't think I would have changed anything like that. I would have just changed things with the actual simulation itself.
I think maybe we could have all ended up with a little more better health than we did if we had put together the clues that we were given each separately. I think that we did like voice what we knew. We didn't utilize that, and we didn't put things together as effectively as we could have possibly. So I think that's another thing that we could have done better.
Yeah.
I think we more looked at the goals that we each
Yes.
had than at the risks
Yes.
facing us.
Sure. So, one thing that I would like to mention is we didn't really fall into, and this is just a note on the group itself, is that we didn't fall into any negotiation mistakes, you know what I mean? We never neglected the other side of the problem. Like whenever we, need to address some health issues, especially with you, Mary, there at the beginning, I made sure that we gave you, what was it, an inhaler for
Yes.
asthma or something like that, we weren't neglecting other people's issues, and the best alternative to negotiated agreements, and that comes back to our goals, figuring out, okay, we're going to stay at this camp, even though I went ahead, the best alternative to negotiated agreements, because we found out what was going to be the best outcome, and it eventually worked up to a certain point. So,
And additionally, for the negotiation mistakes, I think we did not search too hard for common ground. And even though we try to see everyone's goals and all that, we did make the mistake of, because in the end, you all gave up your individual goals to be able to achieve mine, even though we ultimately failed.
Going on top of that, I really like how we worked as a team through the whole thing. We never really split up besides one accident, and it was a mishap. But I really like how we stayed as a team and worked it through as a team the whole way and did it all together instead of splitting up and all going to different camps, focusing more on our team goal than all of our personal goals.
yeah.
I think also what helped was we all made everyone feel involved in the discussion, and it made the process just more not like individual, but like everyone was involved and everyone had worth in it. Like no one was like, oh, I don't want to do this because that's not going to affect me at all. And so everyone's points of views were considered, and so there was like a perceived fairness that was built. And I don't know if that was just because no one had to be rescued early, so we all got to the same points at the same time, but I think it was also because we all just really took into account what everyone wanted to do and where everyone's energy levels were, and how fast everyone was walking and who needed medical supplies more than someone else.
Yeah, and that all comes into play with our multiple alternatives and what we chose to go with, in opposed to what we thought might be less beneficial for the team as a whole. And we were able to really expand on our alternative decisions in order to figure out which one was going to be the best for the whole of the team.
In a way, I kind of feel though that I strongly advocated that we go for trying to fulfill my goal, because that would generate the most points and I would get $1 million.
True.
But I feel like I kind of didn't advocate it in a bad way. It was more like I persuaded you and said that you could have a cut of the $1 million, and like the ultimate goal of the expedition is to summit the mountain. And everybody wanted that. So
Yeah,
it's more like I tried to persuade you, and
Right.
you gave up your individual goals in order to do that.
Because you were technically the leader, so you could have been like, all right, well, you know.
I still try to gather your perspectives
Yeah.
and inquire about your
You
opinions
didn't
for
like
this.
force us to come to like a consensus at all. It was all like, even though you were the leader and probably maybe were more important than us in a way, we all still like didn't feel like, oh, we just have to do this because Marcus is the team leader and he says it.
There was equal say in every single matter, except we kind of just had that idea in our heads that we accepted your role as team leader. It wasn't like you inflicted that upon us, we were accepting of it.
You weren't very forceful at all. You didn't really tell us this is what we're doing, we have to do this. You always asked about our opinion. You try to come up with a quick solution as a whole, not just your own personal interest.
Because everybody brings to the table, you know, like the medic and, you know, me being the marathon runner, like, and I was paying attention to the, you know, to the temperature of the camps and stuff like that, and it wouldn't have worked if there was just one person, you know, calling the shots. You had to have multiple people contributing and trying to focus on the, you know, kind of the good of the whole on that. So I think that we did a really good job with that. Yeah.
In regards to planning, in order to do the simulation all together, we tried to initially meet last Thursday, and I unfortunately had to call that off because I wasn't prepared. I didn't buy the Harvard Business Review. I was one of those people.
That was Friday.
Oh.
It's Thursday, remember?
Thursday,
Sorry,
Thursday.
It was
Right,
like,
that was Friday, and I had let them know that that was up, along with some other personal issues that were distracting me from my schoolwork, and I effectively communicated to them, to all my team members. I tried to reach out. They really were very they reciprocated. It was they understood where I was coming from. We were able to meet again, successfully do the simulation, and all was good in that respect.
found a nice quiet area. Even though I guess it's weird, but you know, we found like a nice area because the library was so packed, but we all communicated well and found a different location to make this thing happen. So I thought that in terms of like our coordination for you know, maybe our planning, you know, there were some issues with that, with the Harvard Business Review being down and you know, you not being assigned your role and everything, but whenever it did come time and everything was set in place, you know, we coordinated effectively to meet.
And I think also what started off on a good foot is you put us all in a group message, and you basically said it was kind of like an agenda, and you told us like what we needed to do in preparation for the next meeting, and so that we could be successful when we came today. And so no one was like, had no idea what was going on or how Harvard Business Review worked and all that stuff. So that helped because it was kind of like we had an original meeting over text.
Yeah, good job, guys.
Great
Good
job.
job, guys.
Too bad we didn't make it to the
I think that was a little